Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about leather notes, leather accords, and at the end we're going to build a woody, leathery, masculine fragrance. We have quite a few materials here that we're going to review. We're going to start with some leather bases, move into some individual leather molecules, castoreum, the good old castoreum. We're going to get into very smoky notes and then a couple spicy and resinous outliers. This all starts with Cuir de Russie. Cuir de Russie. Cuir de Russie is a leather base. It stands for Russian leather. The term originates from a traditional Russian leather tanning process that used birch tar to cure leather hides. And this gave the leather a distinctly smoky, tarry, slightly animalic smell that was very durable and resistant to decay. So imagine in the early 20th century and these fine, luxurious leather products are coming out, boots, gloves, handbags, whatever they are, and all of these luxury items have this smoky, animalic, leathery smell. Naturally, you would want to try to capture that smell and apply it, say, in a perfume or apply it, to other materials. So let's open this up. This is the Cuir de Russie base from Cinnarome. The core ingredients of the classic Russian leather accord are birch tar, isobutyl quinoline, patchouli, floral notes like jasmine or ionones, woody notes like cedarwood, and perhaps some aldehydes and some bergamot to give it some lift and some shine. This is very clearly off the top smoky. It is smoke heavy, birch tar heavy, but there is a beautiful floral accord sitting just underneath that smokiness. Yeah, the light jasmine and violet notes are clearly here. And it's hard for my nose to get much lower than that because, again, it's so smoke heavy. And it's interesting, if you were to smell this coming in cold and say, what do you smell? A person these days, a modern person, probably wouldn't say leather. I would almost gamble they're not going to say leather. You would say, ooh, it's smoky. It smells a bit like campfire. But interesting that this was the smell of luxurious fine leather in the early 20th century. If we skip ahead to what we associate with leather today, we would move to something akin to Suederal. Suederal LT. Suederal LT is a mixture, it's a blend, it's a leather blend produced by IFF. And if you were to ask a modern person what they smell here, they would say leather. This is the smell of leather today. When we think of the smell of leather, what are we actually talking about? We're talking about the smell of a finished, tanned, preserved piece of animal hide. The smell of that animal hide depends heavily on the processing. So it makes sense that going back to the early 20th century, if we used birch tar to tan and preserve leather hides, it makes sense why we would associate birch tar with the smell of leather. These days, birch tar is not used. There are a few different methods of tanning leather these days. A couple of them produce relatively scent-free finished leathers when they're all done. There's one in particular that can contribute some smell. It's called vegetable tanning. And from my understanding, vegetable tanning uses tannins derived from plant matter like oak bark, chestnut, mimosa, etc. And these tannins are polyphenolic compounds that bind to the collagen in the animal hide. And the smell of this processed leather is warm, it's sweet, sometimes it's tea-like. And this is really the classic leathery smell that we get today for, again, new jackets, handbags, whatever that new nice leather smell is. But while that contributes to the smell, the quote-unquote real smell that we get from leather today is actually from the finishing process. Oils, waxes, resins, dyes, all of these can contribute to the smell of the leather when it's finished processing. And then those finishing materials, along with the leather itself, can experience oxidation, which again contributes to the actual smell of the leather. Now, perfumers will take the different aspects of leather and correlate it to a specific molecule. For example, Suederal is like a soft suede. We take Isobutyl Quinoline, which we're going to get to in a second. That's more of a bitter, green, a little bit more harsh leather. Of course, we got Birch Tar, Styrax, Castoreum. That's the more smoky, animalic, classic leather. Let's move very quickly to Isobutyl Quinoline, or pyrrolone. I can smell it already. This pops. It's strong. It's definitely drier, green, a bit more harsh, not as smooth. Definitely not as smooth as Suederal. But it's not smoky like Cuir de Russie or the Birch Tar. So I think these three leathers are a good place to start. The Cuir de Russie base from Cinnarome, Suederal from IFF, and then pyrrolone, or just the generic Isobutyl Quinoline, is a great place to start to give you three somewhat different leather notes. Let's continue to move across the wide band before we get into some of the other individual molecules. Let's get right to Castoreum. Castoreum comes from beavers. This is a Castoreum tincture that I made. It smells lovely, absolutely lovely. It's got a beautiful color to it. And what's interesting about this is this has a very natural, leathery smell. I don't know if castor pods were used in the processing of leather in the past, but this just has a very natural, leathery smell. It's definitely animalic. It's bright. It's a little bit fruity. It's dry. It's got a pungent, I don't know if acidity is the right word, but there's a sharpness to it. And I think once you smell this, and if you remember this smell, occasionally you might be walking out in the woods in the Rocky Mountains, out in Canada. You might smell this and you'll immediately be able to say, there's a beaver nearby. But this is fantastic. Now, Givaudan makes a replacer for Castoreum. Castoreum Givco. And we're going to compare these side by side. If you prefer to create vegan fragrances, here you go. You can use Castoreum Givco to get the same effect without using real Castoreum. And it's very close. I would say Castoreum that you might purchase and then make a tincture often will have a natural smoky note to it, because the hunters or trappers who are licensed to actually cull some of the beaver population, what they will do when they process the beaver is they will take those castor pods. They will take those and typically they'll hang them up by a fire and dry them out. And the smoke from the fire gets on the castor pods, and you get a very nice natural smoky note. And maybe that's why we associate Castoreum with leather, because of that smoky note tie-in. Now, yeah, Castoreum Givco, subtle differences, but same thing. It smells a bit more interesting, a little bit less smoky, a little more aquatic to my nose. There's like a fresh aquatic nature to it. That brightness is still there, but it's not as edgy. It's a more smooth top. It smells a bit cleaner. It smells a bit cleaner than Castoreum tincture, but still a great replacement. Now, we've talked about smoky notes. Let's actually smell Birch Tar. I've got Birch Tar here at 1% because this stuff is strong. I've got like a 30 milliliter bottle. I think I got it from Perfumer's Apprentice. It's rectified Birch Tar. It feels like a lifetime supply. I know it's not, but this stuff is so strong. I don't know when I'm going to use it all. While I'm waiting for that to evaporate, I'm going to dip 2 more strips. Cade, also at 1%. And Leather MD, also at 1%. You might notice a trend here with these smoke notes. They're strong. I find it best to evaluate at a 1% dilution. So let's smell our Birch Tar. I might have to throw this away the moment I'm done because this might permeate the air. Birch Tar. What I love about this is that underneath the very smoky note, there is a woodiness. There's almost a cool freshness hiding underneath. But this is undoubtedly smoky. If I were to take this and let my family smell this, many of them would say it smells like bacon, or at least bacon cooking over an open fire if you've ever been camping. That's very true. This does have a bacony-like quality to it. But this is very smoky. This is what your clothes smell like after a weekend of camping in the cold forest when you're huddled around the campfire for days on end. That's what Birch Tar smells like. Next up, Cade. Cade is very similar to Birch Tar. Now, Birch Tar comes from birch, I believe. I'm going to go out on a limb there. Cade comes from the tree Juniperus oxycedrus, otherwise known, I think, as just the Cade, the Cade tree or the Cade juniper, I believe. This is very similar. However, there's almost an aromatic feature, flavor, nuance to this. I'd say it's a bit more green. Whereas with Birch Tar, to my nose, it's just pure, it's really smoky. There's an edge, there's a burnt edge to it. With Cade, it's almost as if you're getting just a little breeze of fresh air mixed in with that smoke. If you need to pick one for your organ, I'd pick Birch Tar. I find more Birch Tar in formulas that I've purchased and reviewed than I find Cade. I think they're close enough. You're going to be fine with one or the other. I don't think you got to sweat it. Now, 5 years into your perfumer journey, you might start to develop the nose for the nuance, and you might care about that nuance. So sure, pick up some Cade. But if you're just starting, just pick one. Next up, Leather MD, also at 1%. This is a molecular distillation of hickory. Also smoky. I got to reset my nose. My nose is filled with smoky notes. I can't pick up the nuances here. Yeah, this is one step further in the direction of aromatic, fresh, hiding underneath that smoky tone. It's almost as if you're getting a little bit of pine or pine leaf, pine needle. This reminds me of Bois de Land a little bit. Bois de Land, Bois de Lande, however you say that. I think it's a Robertet product. It's a co-distillation of cedarwood and French pine. And it's this beautiful woody but aromatic, fresh smell. It's absolutely lovely. It's a lot like, this is very similar to my nose, but it's smoky. It's got a smoky note. Okay, friend, let's keep pushing. We've got our three, the three kind of core, smoky materials that we reviewed. Queer Russian leather, Suederal, Pyralone. We've looked through Castoreum, beautiful animalic Castoreum. Then the smoky facets of leather, Birch Tar, Cade, Leather MD. Let's move to the spicy saffron notes. We've got two, Saffraleine and Saffranal. I'm going to dip both of these. The Saffralaine's at 10%. Saffraleine was discovered, I believe, when chemists were looking for a replacement to Saffranal. Saffranal is expensive. And, no biggie. It's okay if, dripped a little bit. This will eat through my table. Hold on. Saffraleine, Saffranal is very strong. It's expensive, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that. It's a very, very powerful molecule. And it does wonders for adding a smoky, spicy fullness to, aldehydic fullness to a fragrance. Let's start with the Saffraleine though. It's bad. This is oxidized.
5 minutes later.
Okay. Got my new dilution made. Got it dipped. We're all good. Saffraleine is leathery in that it is dry. It's dry, leathery, cool, but it's spicy. It is a saffron-like note. It's different from, say, Pyralone in that it's not as edgy, or at least the edge is different. Where the Pyralone or Isobutyl Quinoline edge is like a bitter green, a little bit harsh, I would say the Saffraleine edge, it's still edgy, but it's darker, it's richer, it's a little bit more full. And in a blend, you got to be careful, because if you're looking for a little extra fullness in your fragrance, be wary. Saffraleine, Saffranal can pull your fragrance in a direction you don't want to take it. So you do need to be mindful or do some experimenting with what you're doing. Now, Saffranal is also a little bit spicy. It's dry, leathery. I would say it's a bit cleaner. It doesn't have as much going on underneath that bright, leathery saffron top. It's a bit more pure. This is a beautiful molecule to me, Saffranal. I really enjoy it. Saffranal is a key ingredient in any type of Baccarat Rouge type formula that you're going to blend. It provides quite a bit of personality and character, and it blends beautifully with the Veramos. There's a similar kind of powdery fuzziness in Saffranal that I also get in Veramos. Now let's move on to Styrax. Styrax Resinoid, Styrax Absolute. This is an interesting material because it is definitely leathery, but it's got a woody, resinous undercurrent support structure underneath. It's a little bit dirty. It's kind of like if you want a leather note, but you need some woody support underneath. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. We've got 5 more. We're going to go through 2 more Quinolines, another base from Cinnarome, and a couple of other materials I'm actually not very familiar with. Let's start with the Queer HF. This is another base or another blend, also from Cinnarome. The odor description I got from this online is strong and powerful, classical leather. Okay, let's see what we get. I wonder, is this going to be in the direction of Russian leather? Is it going to be in the direction of Suederal, kind of a newer classic leather? Let's see what we get. Okay, this is in the direction of Russian leather. But the smokiness is notably toned down in favor of florals. Interesting. The smokiness is dramatically decreased. The leatheriness is still there. The Pyrrolone-like leatheriness, the bright, edgy, but smooth. I should say bright, smooth leather is there, but it's really supported by ionones and jasmine-like materials. So Queer HF, much cleaner, less smoky version of Russian leather. Good to know. That smells pretty good, not gonna lie. Next up, Butyl Quinoline Secondary. Don't feel like this is a necessary purchase if you already have Pyrrolone or Isobutyl Quinoline. If I remember correctly, the last time I checked, I just couldn't really tell the difference. If I could tell a difference, it was either luck or maybe there's a nuance there. But again, last time I remember, the nuance was so subtle. It was a distinction without a difference. Okay, resetting Pyrrolone. I'm almost getting a little burnt, not smoky, but like burnt plastic right now from the Pyrrolone. Let's get our Butyl Quinoline Secondary. Yeah, I'm just not getting much of a difference. Very, very, very similar to Pyrrolone. Next up, 6-methyl quinoline. Now, this is different. This is leathery. There's a fullness and a richness to 6-methyl quinoline that I don't necessarily get in Pyrrolone, or the nature of it is different. When I dip this, all of these are pre-diluted materials, between 10%, 0.1%. We're going to smell one at 0.1, 1%. And I have to make sure all of the ethanol is evaporated off a strip before I smell, or else I just can't smell it. All right, 6-methyl quinoline. Oh, yeah. There is just a body to this. Almost like a sweet richness. Oh, my mind is going to tobacco. When you smell a fresh cigar, there's an herbaceousness to it. There's a greenness, but there's something underneath. But sitting on top is a nice leather note. That same leather note, but the personality of that leather is very different. 6-methyl quinoline, it's a different beast than isobutyl quinoline. We've got 2 more, and then we're going to do a little blend together. Let's smell Meta Cresol. I haven't tested this yet. I got this from, where did I get this? Harry? Did I get this from Harry? Nah, got it from Pell Wall. I don't know why I got it from Pell Wall. I think a while ago I did a large order from Pell Wall because they had a bunch of materials that I couldn't find at a US supplier. It's one thing I appreciate about all of the different suppliers that are out there between Perfumer's Apprentice, Perfumer's Supply House. I haven't revisited creating perfume since the kerfluffle there. Then we've got Eden Botanicals. I've got the source, the Perfumery. I love the Perfumery. Then we've got, across the pond, we got Harris and Joseph. Great stuff. Don't forget Freighter Works in New Zealand. Absolute high quality. Pell Wall, the stuff that I purchased there has all been high quality. Sometimes you just can't find a molecule. at your favorite shop. So you got to look around, but you know, with their powers combined, we can pretty much find anything that we need. Now, metacresol, the description here says leathery, medicinal, woody, and phenolic. It's more of a mid-note, lasting at 43 hours on a strip is what this says, at least. And I'm smelling this at 0.1%. Okay. Let's smell it. Ooh. Dry. Very dry. It's a dry, woody leather note. That is interesting. I really like this. Simple, straightforward, a different take on something that we would recognize as leather. I understand the cresol, paracresol, methylcresol, paracresol phenyl acetate. The cresol part of this is recognizable in that it's a little animalic. Interestingly, when I smell this, what I smell is the leather that is in Gucci Guilty Absolute. That medicinal Band-Aid. That's what I get here. I don't know if this is in there. I've not seen a GCMS analysis for Gucci Guilty Absolute. But this is the vibe that I get. Last up, Leatheranol, also known as 2-tert-butyl 5-methyl anisole. I know I got this from Harrison Joseph. He's got such interesting materials. He's got the standards, the staples, high quality staples that I think are great, but he also carries some hard to find materials as well, which I really appreciate. Now, again, my nose is getting fried. I'm getting a little tired here of all these notes. I have a note here that I don't know where Harry sourced this molecule. I know there's an Indian producer called Tadamedi, if I'm saying that correctly. And occasionally I've seen complementary formulas from them. Some have been great, some have been questionable, at least as far as my taste for what I enjoy smelling. But Leatheranol is one of the materials that's in their Tom Ford's Eben Fume type fragrance. Okay, I'm getting coolness. I'm getting a cool breeze. It's still dry. It is a touch leathery. But interesting, I'm getting a cool breeze, a cool tea sitting heavily underneath a leather note. So that's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. This is fantastic. We've just gone through all of these. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to combine some of these. And I'm going to do this a little bit off the cuff. I've got a skeleton formula we'll be working off of, and we'll be smelling as we go. But we're going to try to build a leather fragrance using a lot of these notes. So let me get set up, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, let's get to it. We are going to build a leathery, woody, masculine fragrance. I'm going to make it, about 10% concentrate. I've got it targeted for about 25 grams. Caveat, I have not made this before, so we're going to see how it goes. Now, we're going to start with our leather base, our leather-oriented stuff, and then we're going to build on top of that. Now, in the classic leather accord of patchouli, birch tar, and pyrrolone, or isobutyl quinoline, we're going to start with patchouli. And I've got a huge jar. You know what? Yeah, we'll use this. Got this from the Perfumery. Great supplier in the US. I'm becoming very... I like what they have most of the time. Virtually all of the time, I like what they have. So I'm going to start with patchouli here. I'm going to add 0.625 grams neat. It'll be a lot. As it currently stands, this will be about 25% of the concentrate. So it's no joke. Yeah, we'll need one. Here we go. All right. And we are on our way. All right, we've got our patchouli. Next, I'm going to add Vertofix. Vertofix, I think, works fantastic in leather fragrances. I'm going to use 0.25 grams neat. It's about 10% of the concentrate. It functions similarly to ISO Super in that it helps fill the space. It provides a good base to work off of, but it's more apparent than ISO Super. It's less neutral. It's more green, dry, and leathery. So my hope is that this will contribute to the leathery nature of the fragrance. Next, let's add some cedarwood. We're going to do some cedarwood Atlas. Think of it as a less dry version of cedarwood Virginia. It's a little beefier. The same way that 6-methyl-quinolone is a bit beefier, almost sweeter version of isobutyl quinoline, cedarwood Atlas, to my nose, has a little more oomph to it, has a little bit more of a sweet core than cedarwood Virginia. Next, and finally, in the wood notes, before we get into the supporting building blocks, cephalus or cephalus. I always have a problem saying cephalus simply because of the last two syllables, so maybe I'll just start saying cephalus. We need 0.375. This is a woody, ambery, tobacco-y material that I'm looking to just add support, a base of support to the leathery notes. You know, while we're doing this, why don't I add a little ethanol? Because virtually all of my neat materials are going to go in first, so why don't I add the ethanol needed? Or I'll put in half the ethanol. We'll put in 10 grams. That way when I dip, 10.4. That way when I dip, I'll be able to smell it a little bit better. I always have a problem smelling neat materials or interpreting those neat materials that I dip, because either they're really strong off the strip or they smell a little bit different than when they're diluted. So it's just a personal preference at this stage of my journey where I just like to have them diluted. Before we get into the heavy hitters, I want to keep adding the more easygoing materials that support this leather accord, Cetalox. If you don't have Cetalox, just use ambroxan. Okay, no biggie. Okay. 0.125 grams. I'm using this at 10%. Just a beautiful, woody, amber green note, like a clean ambergris. Next, labdanum. Labdanum resin. Just love this. It's sweet, resinous. It's got a nice dry edge. It's just, this is some beautiful stuff. 0.325 grams, and then of course the color it contributes is hard to beat. 0.325. Okay. What's nice about starting with base notes and supporting materials is it's hard to ruin your fragrance at this stage in the game. So many of these materials agree with each other naturally, and they may play differently on your skin than on a strip, but they just tend to work well. They tend to work well together in a wide array of ratios. So I love starting with this stage because there's a lot of wiggle room. There's a lot of room for error. Okay, next up, I got Styrax 50. Or Styrax resin. I need Styrax Absolute from Robertet. Here we go. Okay. I got it. We're safe. I got it. Still leathery, but to my nose a bit more resinous, a bit more rich. 0.25 grams at 10%. Okay. That will do, and then we're going to do one more. Before we get into the Birch Tar, Isobutyl Quinoline, and Castoreum, we're going to add Cistus. Just a little bit of Cistus. This can be a little overpowering. It's resinous. It's very edgy. It's got a little bit of a gasoline vibe to my nose. It's just got that that gasoline vibe. But it is also associated with leather. Maybe because it's dry. It's a touch, green is the wrong word, but it kind of has a similar effect in my nose. So let's do this. We're going to do a lot of testing as we go here. This is different. This process is different to me than what I usually do on camera, which is I have a formula that's been vetted by someone else, and then I'm building, assembling it, and then I will test it. 10 ingredients in, then I'll test another 10 or 20 or whatever it is, and then I'll test. But here I'm flying by the seat of my pants a little bit, so I'm going to want to test as I go and be mindful about the amounts of the stuff, the amounts that I'm putting in here. So this is one, this is the base. We're going to let this dry, and then we're going to smell this immediately. Okay, let's smell it. Immediately I'm getting patchouli, but it's not too herbaceous. Sometimes patchouli can have if you put too much of it, or if it's not a good quality, it can be not just herbaceous and woody, but it can have a dry pepperiness to it that I want to steer clear from. So I like that I'm getting the hardiness, herbal hardy woodiness of patchouli, but not too much. I'm getting support from the ambers. Yeah, all of those other supporting materials like the Cephalus, cedarwood, the cedarwood atlas, interestingly, is helping to provide some body here. Okay, I think we've got a good start. Where I want to go now is Castoreum, Pyrrolone, and Birch Tar. Now, my worry with Birch Tar is it's easy to overdose this. It's very easy to overdose this. So I'm going to spot check in Formulaire. I'm going to look at how much I'm using this formula versus what I have in other formulas, in my system. So I'm going to click, let me record. Okay. So what I'm going to do in my formula here, I'm going to click on Birch Tar. First, I'm going to note how much is the absolute amount in the formula. 0.05% of the concentrate is in Birch Tar. So we're going to click on Birch Tar, and I'm going to scroll down. And here I'm looking for, how does it relate? How does it relate? Killian Pure Oud. Okay, there's a lot in Killian Pure Oud. Oud Spice, same amount. Amouage Silver Oud. That's the end product. Okay. Baby Cat. That's definitely got a lot in it. Okay, I think, boy, we're doing fine. If we only have 0.05% in the formula, we're going to be just fine. Okay, so let's do this. Let's add the Castoreum, let's add the Pyrrolone, and let's add the Birch Tar. We're going to be a little dangerous. The Birch Tar in particular sometimes takes a while to blend into the formula in a way that it doesn't seem overpowering. But I'm using this at 1%. I think we'll be okay. So let's start with our Birch Tar. I'm sorry, I want to start with the Castoreum, then the Pyrrolone, then the Birch Tar, and we're going to dip at each stage and evaluate. So I've got Castoreum. I'm using my Castoreum tincture here. I have Castoreum Absolute. I think it's from Firmenich. They smell very similar, but I love the color here. I'm just a sucker for color. We're going to do 0.25 grams at 10%. It's a fair bit of Castoreum. Fair bit of Castoreum. Good. We'll get a little blend. Okay. And then we're going to dip. I'm probably just going to discard a lot of these as I go, because I don't think we're going to go back and review or evaluate. I just need to know where we're at on the journey forward. So we started with our base. The base worked out great. It's patchouli heavy, but it's resinous, it's rich, it's soft, it's ambery. It's supportive of what we're trying to build on top of it, which is a nice leather note, and then, some more pizzazz on top of that. But let's smell the Castoreum addition. Okay, super subtle. Super subtle, and I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. I am getting colors of the Castoreum in that there's a brightness, there's like a fruity edge, a fruity acidity, just a sharpness in Castoreum that I am getting, but I'm okay leaving it there because we're about to add in powerful Pyrrolone, powerful Birch Tar. So let's add the Pyrrolone. 0.125 grams at 1%. I have a feeling, overdid it. Overdid it. I did 0.17 grams. So a little bit over. It's okay. We're building a leather fragrance. What's the problem if I have a little extra leather in there? Okay. All right, let's give this a dip. Okay, we're adding leatheriness. It's not quite enough though. Knowing what we have coming, I don't want this to be Birch Tar heavy and not the Pyrrolone. I'm going to double it. We're going to update this to 0.25 grams at 1%. So let's add a little more. Okay. Give it a blend. We'll try one more time. Smell it one more time. Okay. What's interesting about building a leather fragrance is it doesn't have to smell like leather and then just like a different kind of leather. Oftentimes, leather fragrances smell like something else. It smells like a woody floral or an amber floral, and it's got a little hint of leather in there. But the fragrance may be marketed as a leather fragrance. That's my goal here, is to make a nice woody fragrance with with a leather nuance to it. Okay, that's a little better. That is definitely a little better. Let's move on to our Birch Tar. We're going to put in 0.125 grams at 1%. Not much, comparatively speaking. With the right formulation, you can cram a fair bit of Birch Tar in here. And so long as there's other notes to complement it or offset it or provide balance, I keep throwing away. I need to hold on to my mixing pipette. But as long as your formulation has a balance or a complement to the Birch Tar, you can get away with quite a bit. Your Birch Tar should be of good quality. FrederWorks, I believe, sells a Birch Tar replacement. I have a sample here. I have not busted into it yet, but I do have a little bit here. So there are options out there if you don't just want the raw stuff. All right, let's smell this, and then we're going to get into all the supporting materials that really help build out the fragrance. Okay, perfect. This adds a smoky nuance. Where it stands right now is a delicate leather, a smooth, delicate leather on a woody amber base. And I really like it. Oh yeah, it's weird that the Birch Tar is almost enhancing the Castoreum. I like where we're at. Now we're going to mess with it. We are going to mess with it because this is just the base of our fragrance. One thing I'm learning about many fragrances, not all, many fragrances, the 90% of the fragrance, between 80 to 95% of the fragrance is in something like 10 to 15 materials. Those materials are typically Isobutyl Super, Hedione, perhaps some bergamot, some kind of floral like Floral, Magnoline, Phenoxanol. Then we have staple musks like ethylene brassylate, galaxolide, habanolide, etc. And then big materials like Vertofix, Cephalus, more florals, linalool. Linalool acetate is a huge one. Most of the fragrance is built on those big building blocks. But the real personality and the quality of the fragrance is contained within that last 5 to 15% of the final materials. That's really what makes the fragrance. So it's just interesting. It's an interesting thing that I've noticed. So let's start building this out with the more boring big pieces of information, if you will. We've got our Isobutyl Super. We're going to do some Hedione and then benzyl salicylate. This is going to provide a balsamic floral salicylate wash through this fragrance. But let's start with the Isobutyl Super. We need 0.25 grams neat. Again, I'm not about to ruin my fragrance by adding Isobutyl Super. Given what I just smelled, I like. It's smooth, ambery. It's warm and smoky and leathery. I'm not going to ruin it by adding a little bit of Isobutyl Super. I'm not going to ruin it by adding Hedione. I'm changing the nature of the fragrance now, though. That is true. I'm changing the nature of the fragrance. Some of these materials might hinder projection. They might sit on top of what I've got going on here rather than helping to lift it up. I have to take that into account as I'm adding things, as I'm smelling as we go along. What am I adding that is hindering projection? What am I adding that is contributing to the stuffiness or the muted quality of the fragrance? Here I need 0.25 grams at 50% Hedione. It's funny what, for example, aldehyde C10. adding a little bit of that can help project, can help give a little pop, a little nice edge wash, to your fragrance. And then you 10 times that, and all of a sudden it weighs everything down. It covers up some of the fruity notes. It covers up some of the florals, and it's just heavy. So dosage, so to speak, is extremely important with perfumery. 0.25 grams neat of benzyl salicylate. Everything that I'm adding here is going to weigh it down a little bit. The hedione will help open it up. It'll provide a little lift and clarity, but ISO Super, that's a heavy molecule. Benzyl salicylate will add a new quality to this, which we're going to discover right now. Actually, I want to add the remaining 10 grams of ethanol. Let's tear. Okay. Okay. Let's smell this. And then we're going to continue adding those big building blocks. We're going to do the musks and sandalwoods next. But let's give this a smell. Interesting. This didn't hold it down much at all, actually. Interesting. This actually provides support in the best way possible. It's lifting it up a little bit and holding it up front and center. And the benzyl salicylate is affecting the smoky, warm leather note that we put in here. But it's tying in. This is lovely. This is still lovely. We're on the right track. At this point, if I were trying to build a formal fragrance, or I knew I was going to iterate on this, which I may have to, I would write a note. And I'm going to write this note here right now. Base, I'll write something like base is good up through yada, yada, yada. And then I would write all the materials that I've added so far. We've got ambers, leather, supporting, let's just go woods. Great. Cistus. Then we've got hedione, benzyl salicylate, and ISO E. Okay, so now I have a note that if this formula goes to crap, I at least know that up until this point, I like what I'm doing. This agrees with my nose. So let's keep going. We've got a few more things. I hesitate to add all of these. Let's go with neutral. Let's go with our musk. This is going to be not a big deal. I'm going to add the musks and the sandalwoods because I think this will continue to build without really ruining the fragrance. So let's just keep going. Let's start with our ethylene brassylate. Again, it's neat. I need 0.25 grams. Just a workhorse musk, very neutral, clean. It's warm. It's not necessarily metallic, but it's not powdery. It's right in between clean and animalic. It's fantastic. Ambretolide, 0.12 grams at 10%. A very nice, warm, a little much, but that's okay. Nice and warm, inoffensive musk. Next up, Bacdenol, 0.125. A strong sandalwood note. I found that if I overdose things like Bactinol or Javanol in a fragrance, I have to be careful with supporting materials because it can get a bit syrupy, a bit sick. I get a bit sick with that smell in my nose if it's combined too much with other sweet notes. It's like in food. You get something that's too sweet, you got to cut it with some acid, with some vinegar, some lime, something like that. Or, something gets too salty. It's nice to have that balance of salty, sweet, and acidic. Fragrance is no different. All right, next up, Sandalore. We've got 0.625 grams. Sandalore is a much more subdued sandalwood material. It's still present, but it plays a supporting role. It plays a supporting role. All right, let's blend. All right, let's sniff because I want to add in some Veramos and some vanillin. Dare we add vanillin and sweeten this thing up? We'll see. Okay. We still haven't messed up what's going on up top. We're just adding richness and fullness to the base, which I appreciate. We haven't turned the corner yet where adding to the base is then dampening what we have in the heart and on top. So far, so good. Now we're going to add 2 more materials, kind of a crapshoot. Let's see what happens. We're going to do vanillin just a little bit and a little Veramos. I'm hoping the vanillin doesn't sweeten it up, but instead adds a little bit of throw, a little bit of pop. I've noticed that vanillin in small amounts, with the right formulation, can help with projection and throw. So let's add our vanillin. Veramos, just a different color, just adding a different color on the base. Now we're still adding base notes, so at this point there's still a risk. If I overdose the bases or add the wrong base, it's going to start sitting on top of some of these other notes that we've added. So, here's hoping. But 0.125. So not much. It's really not much. Okay. Blend, blend, blend. We're getting another dip. We're just dipping as we go, constantly testing. And think about it, at this point, what if we added something like osmanthus? A lot of it. Could be really awesome. Or we could ruin this entire blend. Oh, it still needs to evaporate. And at this point, again, if I was developing an idea here, there would be a point where I would take this juice here as it exists, and I would split it into 2 or 3, little bottles. And then in each of those, I could experiment. I could take it in one direction, maybe a fruity direction where I'm adding damascanone, osmanthus, whatever. Maybe I'm going over here and I'm adding rosy materials to a different one. So I can take the same base and experiment, just take it in a different direction. Okay. We've just changed the nature of our base a little bit. The vanilla, even though we didn't add much, did its job. It's not really adding to the projection. It's just added a different facet of the round ambery sweet core. We're still good. We're still good. In fact, I may come back and add a little bit more Castoreum, a little bit more Isobutyl Quinoline, but first, let's add in some of these other materials. A staple. We're only adding 0.25 grams of this neat, but let's add in our linalool. We're going to add in some floral materials. So we got some linalool. We're going to add some Iralia. If you don't have Iralia, you can use isoraldine. You can use methyl gamma. You can use ionone beta. It's whatever. Just get some ionones in here. All we want are ionones. If you have Oris Jivco or Iraval Olafac, you can use those. We just want ionones. And I definitely overdosed that. Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. I just got a squirrely scale. That's all. All right, next, Jasmine Specialty. Or Jasmine 231. I can't keep track of what this one is, but it's whatever you get off of Perfumer's Apprentice for that Firmenich product. 0.125 at 10% for Jasmine. Okay. All right. We've got our floral notes. And then, you know, up to keeping up with the plan, we've only got 3 more materials. So let's see how this does. So far, we're on the right track, though. All right. No, still needs to. Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. I feel like I need to get a little rose in here. But we'll see. Maybe this will be okay without rose. It's missing. It is missing a rosy core, which is almost a staple for fragrances. Even when you think there's no rose in it, likely there's some rose hidden in there. Citronellol, phenyl ethyl alcohol, that kind of stuff. But I'm worried now that we have Iralia and Jasmine in here. I'm worried that if I add rose, that I get a trifecta of forgive me, but old woman smell, or at least a floral accord that is simply from another time past, long past. And I haven't yet figured out what the proper ratio is in the context of other fragrances, so that it doesn't smell like it's a fragrance out of the 60s or 70s. So maybe we'll stick with it. But so far, this has added a little floral body, again, without changing what we've got going on in our fragrance. So far, so good. We've got 3 more materials. And then we're going to reevaluate and see if we need more isobutyl quinoline and or castoreum. So next, let's just do these last 3. We're going to do cashmeran. It's not much. We're doing this for just a little edge, a little pop, something to cut through, but it's not much. 0.05 grams at 10% was the target weight there. I think I did a couple drops too much, but that's okay. Next, we've got pink pepper in the same amount. Pink pepper works great as a top note in conjunction with something like bergamot, in that there's a little terpenic, spicy aspect to it. Oh, overdropped that one too, but that's okay. But there's a bit more, it ties in well with linalool acetate and things like bergamot and lemon, but there's a bit more umami to it. It is a spicy note, so there's a bit more heart to that smell. It doesn't last long, but there's something there that's really nice. Last up, bergamot. Doing this at 50%, 0.05 grams. Let's see if that worked. Yeah, 1 more drop. Why not? Okay. We're gonna pause here. We're gonna give it a blend. Blend, blend, blend. And then we're gonna see, could we get away with a little more castoreum, a little more isobutyl quinoline? Because I like where this is at, but I'm hoping that the leather notes come through. But before we do that, we got to test it on skin, because I'm learning the hard way. I've been learning the hard way that something can smell amazing on a strip and very differently on your skin. All right. This is nice. It's definitely patchouli heavy. I mean, that's still coming through. The woodiness is coming through. It's delicately leathery. Let's say that. It's delicately leathery. The smokiness is still there. It's still apparent, but it's warm. It's not offensive. It's not intrusive. But I am looking for a little bit more of the leather note. So let's put just a little bit on my arm here. Let's see how that smells, and maybe we'll add, maybe we'll double up again on the Castoreum and the Isobutyl Quinoline. All right. The dry leatheriness is coming through more on my skin in a way that I wasn't expecting. I think there's room for a little more. Let's update our Castoreum. We're going to double this. So I'm going to add another 0.25 grams. And then I'm going to add a little bit more Isobutyl Quinoline. Let's get 0.25 grams here. A danger of adding Castoreum to the fragrance right now is that given all of the other materials I've already added or already contributed, adding a natural material can add a lot more complexity than I want. When you're tweaking formulas, sometimes it's better to remove things than it is to add things. And with natural materials like rose, geranium, jasmine, there's so much going on. You're not adding just one aroma chemical or, a slightly nuanced, multifaceted, but, 2 or 3 facets to it. You're not just adding a simple aroma chemical. You're adding a complex material that you don't know, might swing it one way or the other. Okay, for the pyrrolone, let's add another 1/10 of a gram. Gonna need to make another dilution here. I'm hoping this doesn't make it too bright. Maybe we need to add a little bit more birch tar, but I don't know. We'll see. It's just perfumery. It is just perfumery. If I had to go back and do this again, I might decrease the patchouli and up the Vertofix. I might do that. I might have tried that. Okay, let's give this a dip. Then we're going to give it a skin test on my other arm. Let's just do that right now while we're waiting. Didn't ruin it. Didn't ruin it. It added just a little bit more leathery. It made that leather nuance a bit more pronounced, but we're still good. This is definitely woody, leathery. It's certainly masculine. Interesting, though, about very woody masculine fragrances. Sometimes when women wear those really masculine fragrances, they just come off differently and they smell really good. I don't know if it's something about a woman's skin or like her shampoo, her shampoo smell combined with, I don't know what it is, but sometimes they just smell very different. They smell very nice on women. All right, we're good to go on the strip. Let's see on the hand. Okay, the brightness is even a little bit more pronounced. I would not add any more Isobutyl Quinoline at this point. I am getting a dryness that's just nice. I am almost tempted to add more birch tar, but I don't think I want to touch it from here. I think we're good. I think we are good. Okay, friends. Well, that was fun. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to bottle this. We'll see how it does in 3 months, how it ages and matures. But I really enjoyed putting this together. Thank you for experimenting with me today and for joining me on the leather smell adventure. Please remember, I've got a perfume store with 9 fragrances right now. Oud Rose will be launched soon. I still need to bottle it up. It's still in the jugs, not even been bottled yet. So once I get that bottled, that will be released. And at that point, all of the first 10 fragrances for phase 1 of Ryan Parfums will be launched. And you can get your hands on it. And then soon after that, I will be making sample packs. Those are coming. I've been getting a lot of questions and emails about those. So don't worry, those are coming. Thank you, friends. I'll see you next time.